What do you think that Germans get wrong about Texans?
I mean, you get the guns one a lot, right? If people are like, they're like, pew pew, like, you must have had
I get the finger guns the time.
But like, actually, like, they immediately go to finger guns, and you're like,
immediately. They're like, oh, Texas, pew pew.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the big one, is they assume that it's a big part of the culture, and it is, but like, it's not every Texan everywhere,
are
right?
They wrong? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pod Abroad. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and on this podcast, I am interviewing many different international friends that I've made here in Munich, Germany. Just for some context, I'm an American who has lived in Germany for the last 8.5 years, and today I am joined with Max. Woo woo! How did we meet? It's actually quite a funny story.
It's a very funny story.
We both go to the same gym called F45. Not sponsored, I wish. Their gym's expensive, but worth it. I digress. We were there once, my boyfriend Tim and I, and he noticed, I think Tim had the water bottle.
No,
right?
I think the important thing too, though, is that it wasn't that I noticed the water bottle. I had specifically been given a mission to find the water bottle because Sophie, my girlfriend who lives in Munich, has been going to that gym like longer than I've even been here. And so she had noticed the water bottle before, but had basically told me like, there's somebody from Texas who goes to this gym and you have to find them.
I love that.
And then ironically, I found Tim first and he was just confused. But
yeah, you told Tim like, oh, are you from Texas? And Tim was like,
I was like, I thought I still had the accent. Like, I had no idea.
And I was like, no, that's me. And essentially, I just had a water bottle full of Texas stickers. I think that's just like such a U.S. thing to have like the Nalgene filled with stickers.
It's a little bit, definitely a U.S. thing.
Yeah. And the rest is history. So that's how we met.
Yep.
And then you joined us for like a debate watch party.
That's right. That was the first thing I did here.
Yeah.
Great way to start.
That was very interesting. That was last fall. Anywho, so that has been an adventure. It's not often that like you're meeting friends in the wild, I feel like, in Munich.
In Munich, also just as like a grown adult, right? I feel like it's not that often you just run into people and you're like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. So
especially like fellow Texans. So I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like someone from my home state, like really cool. So that's been a while now, a few months. But still, like it feels, I was gonna say it's been a while. It feels like a while.
Feels like a while, but it hasn't been that long. I haven't even been here that long. I mean, this is my
true
7th month in Germany.
Crazy. And that's what we're going to get into this episode. So just for everyone listening in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about our home state of Texas, about Max's travels, like cultural differences, things of the sort, and then about his time here in Germany.
Yep.
So Max, can you introduce yourself for everyone, who you are, where you're from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm Max. I'm from the U.S., right? I mean, I always tell people, at least initially, that I'm from Texas. I don't know that it's quite that simple. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I was born in New York, then we moved to South Carolina, and then really I did like kindergarten through 3rd grade in Montreal. And then we moved to Texas when I was like 8 or 9. So Texas is where I lived most of my life still. It's where I went to college. It's where I did middle school and high school. Obviously, like the bulk of my like formative years were there, but there's still some leftovers from like, spending a few years in Canada and that sort of thing. So
But you had like the formative years of your life.
I would say the formative years of my life were in Texas, 100%.
Very cool. And then what would you say like your story is in a nutshell of how you ended up living in Munich now?
How I got to Munich, Germany? Yeah. No, that's a good question. So I lived in Boston before I lived here. And at one point I had kind of read a lot about people who did solo travel, and I wanted to explore that because I had never done it, never even really like considered it. And so I decided to book a trip to go to Germany, to Austria, and to the Czech Republic for a little more than a week at the end of the year in 2022, which was kind of done on purpose too, because I did it during the World Cup. And that way, if I ever got like bored or I didn't know what to do, I could just go to like any bar in any city and there'd be international soccer. So that was kind of the idea.
Unites everyone.
Right, exactly. Like, I can just make friends from all over the world. So And then the first night I was in Munich, first night I was in Europe on that trip, I met some Australian dudes at my hostel. And they were like, hey, you should come with us to a bar tomorrow night. There's one Aussie pub in Munich. They were like, us, a bunch of our Australian friends are going to go because we have a World Cup game against Argentina. You should come with us, go to that match. And then I did. Met a girl from Argentina who lives in Munich. And now I live in Munich is the short version of that story. But yeah.
I love that in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So you came here for love.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I want to move into the first segment all about where we're from. And can you tell me actually, so like where have you lived in Texas or where were you raised? I know you said like you have a bit of a blend, but like say you're 9 years old and like you just got to Texas.
The whole deal. Yeah. And because this is funny too, because it's like it's easy to think like, oh, we're both Texan. We have so much in common. But like Texas is a big state. It's a big state. And we're from very different parts of the state. So I grew up in Houston, so southwest of Houston. But
was it Houston?
It's not Houston,
was
right?
It Sugarland?
So it's not even Sugarland. I'm
Stafford,
Missouri City.
Oh, Missouri City. I got close.
Yeah. Stafford. Yeah, there's close enough. But it's always a fun game of like, oh, I'm from Houston, and then someone's from Houston. And you're like, okay, well, actually, I'm from Sugarland, and then they're from Sugarland, and you're like, all right, well, one more, and sometimes they're still from Missouri City. But yeah, so. Was there basically when I was 9 years old. And then when I turned 18, I went to college in Austin. So I went to the University of Texas.
Very cool.
And then after that, I left the state. But
have you ever been, I don't know if you know actually where I'm from. I'm from the Valley near Mexico.
Yep.
Have you ever been there?
I have been to South Padre Island once, but I really just don't feel like that counts. So no.
I mean, like that's like a very nice part of the Valley. I feel like that's like our claim to fame. Everyone's always like, yeah, South Padre.
But I've never been to Brownsville. I've never been to, like Eagle Pass, like any of those, like none of the real like border towns.
Yeah.
Laredo, never done.
I'm from a small town named Westlaco, Texas. It's near McAllen or like Harlingen, Edinburgh. What can I say about it? So you've never been. It's a blend of cultures for sure. I grew up like 10 minutes from the Mexican border.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, most people that I met when I went to university, like also from who were born and raised in Texas, like also had never ever been to my home region.
Right.
Just like from Houston, I think it takes like 6 hours.
Yeah, dude, like it might even be more than that. Like
it's a drive. But either way, yeah, I don't know. Would I recommend someone going? I mean, maybe for like a long weekend because it's so far. It's another world, that's for sure.
I mean, I want to go because I've heard it's another world. And at this point, I feel like I have more of an appreciation for like that blending of cultures and how unique that is. And so, I don't know. I at some point, I'd like to go. It's just one of those things like it's never convenient. Like you're going really out of your way to like go to, the really south part of Texas. So,
yeah. No, I get that. And I think like when I was growing up there, I also like just like wanted to get the hell out. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to leave and never come back. And I think like you said, like growing up is also like getting to appreciate those little things of like culture.
Oh,
and
100%.
I didn't know, like I have this one story of actually like I grew up eating Tex-Mex food like almost every day. And I told my mom once, I'm sick of this food. Like I'm never like going to eat Tex-Mex again when I leave. And then like
the total lie and really just tragic that you like took of all foods to take for granted Tex-Mex.
I know. And like I yelled that at her. And I think a few years ago during the pandemic when I was lonely, I called my mom crying and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean it.
I'll do anything.
I didn't mean it.
German food's terrible.
Yeah. Salt and pepper just isn't enough.
Right.
Oh yeah. So it's definitely like, it's a place that one can appreciate now that I've left.
But some of that's just growing older, right? I mean, like I felt similar about Houston when I was there. Like, and then a lot of people in Houston are like, oh, Houston's terrible. But it's like, now that I've left, right, and I've gone back a couple times, like, there's plenty of things about it that are great and that people can appreciate. It's just
absolutely
some of that's growing older and getting perspective and realizing like, oh, there's some things that I thought everybody did and they're actually just unique to the way I grew up or where I grew up.
That's so true. And Houston's so like multicultural. I know like U of H is like one of the most diverse universities, right?
U of H has got to be one of the most diverse universities. Houston's one of the most diverse cities. I mean, the county I grew up in, Fort Bend, I think is like consistently like a top 10 most diverse county.
Wow.
So, I mean, a lot of people in Texas grow up with like surrounded by other cultures, right? And you talked about that blend of like American and like Mexican culture, right? But like, I think I really took for granted until I was like an adult and moved out. That Fort Bend in particular is like insanely diverse, right? So you have people that are not just of like Hispanic descent, but like Asian Americans, Indian Americans, like the whole spectrum all kind of together. And that's, I think when people talk about a lot of like, oh, that's like how the whole US is. It's like, no, it's like pretty special to actually find that many groups of people all together.
Absolutely. And one thing I think that Germans like get confused about is like they see an American and they just think like, oh, you're just American, like that's what you are. And like so many of us like have come from different cultural backgrounds that like, I don't speak Spanish fluently, like not yet. And so I think when I met a lot of people when I first got here, they were like, oh, but you don't speak Spanish, so like you're just a white American.
Not, like,
you're just like American.
Mexican American, you're just American. Yeah. And it sucks that that's like a real thing.
Yeah.
But I think some of that's the way that we talk about identity and like the way that we like define ourselves. And sometimes it is like, I get why some people like are annoyed when there's people who are, they'll say like, oh, well, I'm German. I'm German, but it's like, okay, well, you're like great grandfather was German.
Yeah.
You don't eat German food. You don't speak German. Like you have no connection to that culture.
But I know you mean like they say I'm German. Like they never say like I'm of German.
They never say I'm of German descent. Or like I'm German American. So like, and that's really like, just semantics at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like we're so often like proud of our heritage. It doesn't matter where it's from. And I think in some ways that's a good thing, but I get why it annoys, the real Germans sometimes. So
no, I get that too. What do you think that Germans get wrong about Texans? Like, have you like meeting all like the Germans that you have in the last 7 months of living here? Do people have any stereotypes? And they're like, oh, Max, like Texas.
I mean, you get the guns one a lot, right? If people are like, they're like, pew pew, like you must have had
I get the finger guns all the time.
But like actually, like they immediately go to finger guns, and you're like,
immediately. They're like, oh, Texas, pew pew.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the big one. Is they assume that it's a big part of the culture, and it is. But like, it's not every Texan everywhere, right? Are
they wrong?
And I think a lot of them do think of the like, oh, like did you like ride a horse to school? Like, no, I didn't ride a horse to school, but I did know people who owned horses. So like, there is some truth to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think like the guns is the big one, but I think also just they assume that it's a very homogenous place. I think a lot of times, I mean, a lot of people will say that like Munich / like Bavaria is the Texas of Germany. But I think Bavaria is a lot more culturally homogenous across the whole thing. And I'm sure a Bavarian would just like totally disagree with that. But like Texas is a really big state with a lot of different groups of people, like Dallas, Austin, Houston, the Valley, El Paso, like totally different in a lot of ways. So I think it's easy to just be like, oh, well, I know somebody that's from, Amarillo, so you must be just like them. And it's like, okay, well, that's like 11 hours away. So
yeah, no, you're right. And like every city has their different thing.
Yeah, they really do have like different vibes.
Blends.
Yeah, because I've spent a good amount of time in like, I don't know, all 4 of the major ones, right? So like Houston, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, and like they are all really different in how they feel and like the people there.
Let's flip it around. What would you think, like, what are the stereotypes of people in Texas? Like, what do they think about you living in Germany? What do they think life is like for you?
I mean, I'm trying to think of what people often assume is like super different. I mean, not having a car, but they're right on that one, right? Like I mean, we don't have a car, so I like am always taking public transit, right? And I think for a lot of people that's like crazy of like, oh, like you don't have that like freedom to get around, like you have to like plan so much, but like so I think that's a big,
like quite the opposite though for me.
I feel I feel like it's more convenient, right? But for some people that's really hard to imagine. But I don't know like what other people assume life is like here beyond just like the public transit thing. So I mean, obviously the language, but like that's a whole different piece. So
I've gotten the whole like, oh, I've heard the Autobahn is wild.
The Autobahn is kind of wild though. Like, I mean, when's the last time you were on the Autobahn with no speed limit? Like,
I'm not crazier than like a Texas highway. Oh my God.
I guess the biggest difference is that they're allowed to do it here. In Texas, they just do it anyway. Like the speed limit says, 85, but they're still just going like,
oh yeah.
So
people do not care about rules in Texas or like, with like the fastest being on the left. That's something here in Germany that like they totally respect on the highway.
You just said people in Texas don't care about the rules. No. That is the opposite here. People here really care about the rules. They do. And like the classic thing of like it's 2 a.m. and they're coming home from the bar and they will still wait for the crosswalk to turn green before they cross. Like So
Yeah. What's another one that I get? I think people like have seen Christmas movies or like anything that they've ever seen in media or like movies about Germany have been like these like idyllic, beautiful German
oh yeah,
homes.
yeah, it's tiny little like mountain towns in
Yes,
the
yeah, yeah,
countryside
yeah.
with like the beautiful
Yeah.
like, which is almost looks more Swiss usually
True,
than it does
true.
like what most of Germany looks like. I do
Yeah.
think most German stereotypes seem to pull from like Bavaria, so like some of that is a little bit accurate, especially if you go like south from Munich to like some of like the smaller towns. But I mean, that's like most of Germany doesn't look like that, right? Most of
Yeah.
it is honestly pretty flat and doesn't have these like beautiful mountain villages. So
I think a lot of people think, yeah, that Bavaria is like, or the idyllic side of like Bavaria is what all of
German
Germany
culture
looks
is,
like.
yeah.
Like, I'm just living in this beautiful little
Which-
cottage.
Yeah, exactly. No different than them thinking like me and you both grew up on a ranch and like rode a horse to
Yeah.
school. But yeah, still, wrong. So
Which stereotype is better? I don't know.
I feel like I'd rather have had a ranch.
Yeah, true.
And I know people who had ranches.
Wide
so like
open
again,
spaces.
those people are out there. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but
What would you say is one thing that like only Texans would understand?
I think this is a really fun one. And I think it's just like certain brands for me. Like there's certain brands that I grew up with, have a deep loyalty to that I never realized were like just a Texan thing
Like
until like I
food?
left.
Or
Whataburger for sure. So
Yeah.
food. But Whataburger, Buc-ee's, Bluebell, and then just the king being HEB, right? But
Yes.
like there's a handful of those brands that like defined my childhood. Like
Oh,
every
yeah.
road trip you stop at Buc-ee's. And now Buc-ee's is like a little bit more widespread.
yeah,
But at least when I was a kid, it was like just a Texas thing. And so like
true.
so like those are big ones. Like in college, dude, I went to Whataburger so often. And like I was when I left Texas, I was like, I'm gonna miss Whataburger as like one of the number one things.
But
Which
they've changed apparently.
it's changed. They got bought by like some Chicago
That's what
investment
everyone
group.
tells
and
me.
Yeah.
It's just
So
like
the
not the
golden
same.
age of Whataburger is over.
Is over, but we have the memories.
Yeah,
Those still
exactly.
live on.
Yeah. So like there's Whataburgers in other states now. There's Buc-ee's in other
Yeah.
states now. Bluebell you probably can buy everywhere. But like back in the day, those were all Texas things. And I feel like that's what I like really remember of like that. Those were just Texas things.
Yeah. I have a comment like regarding Whataburger. I took when I took Tim to Texas for the first time, I was like, you have to try Whataburger. Like
I did the same thing with
this
Sophie.
is the pride and joy of Texas.
Yep.
And he had one and he was just like, this tastes like McDonald's. And I was just like,
I had the exact same experience.
Oh,
Sophie was like, it tastes like a really
no.
greasy hamburger. And I was like, it is a really greasy hamburger.
I was
But
like,
still.
no. And then I literally like I posted it to my Instagram story and like he got so much shit. They were like, how dare he?
Yeah.
That's so mean.
And they're
like,
right.
Don't disrespect our
Don't
great
disrespect
state.
Texas. Don't mess with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. So that was funny. And then we also like I took him to Buc-ee's just for some context for people who don't know. Buc-ee's is a rest stop, like a gas station. But like think
But so
about
much more.
But so much more. Think about like a Walmart gas station. Like they have 100 pumps. They have incredible clean restrooms that also have probably like 50 stalls for women and men.
Oh yeah.
And they have this mascot that is a beaver. And it's just everything. And it just like ties into like American consumerism culture, which I love. When it comes to Buc-ee's,
When it comes to Buc-ee's, yeah, it's fine.
When it comes to Buc-ee's.
The rest of the time, I will criticize it, but
True.
Buc-ee's is totally
But
cool.
like, dude, the beaver has like something on me.
Have you ever seen the beaver?
I have not, like with the statue or like the actual like mascot itself.
I've seen like the dude in the beaver suit, like the mascot
What?
itself at a Buc-ee's once.
Oh my gosh, no.
I don't know if it was the first time I went to one with Sophie, but
Yeah.
she was there, and yeah, the beaver was there in the
I
building.
would have been so excited.
It was a really emotional experience. It was beautiful.
I once here in Munich saw someone with a Buc-ee's t-shirt.
Right, and that's an immediate bond.
Iconic, I
Yep.
know. And so for background, the t-shirt just has a big beaver. Like that's it. It
Just the logo.
didn't even say Buc-ee's. It literally just had the
doesn't
beaver.
need to.
It didn't. And I was so excited. I told him, I was like, oh my gosh, like that person is like, he's like wearing a Buc-ee shirt.
It's one of us.
Yeah, I can't explain it. It's just it's a really great store. They even have like beaver themed like foods like beaver nuggets and
Yep.
beaver whatever.
Beaver everything.
It's an experience. It's almost like going to like
No, it's a cultural institution.
yeah, like it's almost like going to a theme park except there are no rides.
There's no rides.
There's just really good restrooms and great
Really
food.
good restrooms, great food, great barbecue, shockingly, which is, another big deal in Texas. So the fact that a gas station's up there is a big achievement.
Yeah.
And they have 100 pumps, and they have every snack you could ever want.
They what is the saying in Texas? Everything's bigger in Texas. That's Buc-ee's.
That's Buc-ee's.
Oh, for sure. How do you think, I mean, you've been here 7 months now.
Mm-hmm.
What similarities have you found between Texas and the state of Bavaria?
I think there are a lot of similarities. Like, people do say that, and there's a lot of reasons that they're right for thinking that they're similar. I think there's a lot of pride in like the state.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Texans are probably more proud of being Texans than they are proud of being Americans.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people from Bayern that are more proud of being Bavarian than they are of being German.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they think that like, they have like the defining culture of Germany, right? And some Texans think that they're like the world.
This like God complex.
Exactly. Like that kind of like God complex, I think exists for both, right?
Yeah.
Like Bavaria has like the most castles, the best castles, like Neuschwanstein's in Bavaria. Like, why would you go anywhere else? And Texans, like, we do the same thing. So.
Yeah. No, I'd for sure agree. When I had my first day at university for my master's program, my professor was like, "Hi, everyone. Like, my name's Hans, and I'm from like a small country right next to Germany. Like, it's called Bayern."
Yep.
And like the whole everyone laughed, and I was like, "Damn!" Like, and that was literally, I think, like my first month living in Germany. I was like, "Okay, like he said it."
Yeah, and that was a defining moment, right?
Yeah, like that's how they feel.
Yep.
I want to move into a little bit about where we went to university.
Yep.
Because I know you went to UT Austin.
No, yeah, this is big.
Yeah, and I went to Texas A&M University. Mm-hmm. For those of you who do not know, those are the two biggest public universities in the state of Texas, and they are big rivals, arch enemies.
Nemesis.
Yeah, and very, very different. So tell me about your experience at UT Austin.
I mean, no, it's hard because it's like I feel like everybody's experience is like, oh, I had the normal college experience, right? But like,
yeah, but what is that to someone maybe who doesn't even know what the U.S. college experience is like?
I think UT and A&M both are like very good examples of what going to like a big public school is like, right? So sports are big, football's big, like just being a part of like the university is like a huge point of pride for a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, not everybody gets in, right? That's part of it, but it's also just like that becomes your whole life when you go to college. And I think that's one of the biggest differences I've realized between these like big American universities versus how a lot of other countries do the university programs is like, it becomes your whole life. It becomes your whole personality. Like you watch Texas football, you watch Texas basketball.
You change
like,
your Instagram profile.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You wear burnt orange to everything. Like, or, maroon. So it just becomes like the defining personality trait for you for like basically 4 years. It's like you join a like benevolent cult that educates you.
Oh, for sure.
And then eventually you leave and you look back on it like fondly, right? And I think the big thing for me with going to UT Austin, right, is it's like, I mean, it really is in the middle of like downtown Austin. Like it's a lot of universities in the US, a lot of major public universities like A&M, right, are kind of out in the country where there's a lot of land and it's a more rural community, but like it's downtown. So like going to, 6th Street where the bars are, like is a big part of the college experience, right? But like also just being able to see like the food, the restaurants, like Texas barbecue, like you're centrally located, like all of that's a big piece of like being in Austin. And you kind of get a lot of the Austin like quirky stuff too of like you go to like Barton Springs, there's Zilker Park, like you paddleboard on like Lady Bird Lake. There's a lot of stuff like that comes with going to school there that like, that's just like it was normal for me because that's what everybody does. But I realized that like not every school is like that. But A&M's got its own, charm. Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say, right? Of like, there's a lot of traditions there as well. So I don't know how much of that you got into, but.
Oh, quite a bit. I was fully like deep into the cult. Well, yeah, there's so many traditions at A&M.
The whooping's a big one.
True, we whoop, but you can
Mhm.
only whoop if you're like an upperclassman, which means like your
Right.
third or fourth year. Because whooping is a privilege.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoop. Yeah, it was a time. I'm trying to think of like what traditions I did. Pond hopping, like going through like all the different like fountains around campus at night and like jumping through
See,
them.
this is already deeper than I
Or
even
like
knew it went.
what else? Reveille, like the mascot at my
Mhm.
university, if she is in one of your classes and she barks like class
Canceled,
is
right?
over,
Yep.
that's like something very
Did it ever happen
serious.
to you? Did Revelry ever
It
bark in your
didn't.
class?
It did not. But I did have a class with her once, and we were all just
I've
like
heard it's very rare. I think it's
staring.
I mean I toured there. I know a lot of people who went there, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But like Revelry is like a incredibly well trained dog.
Yeah,
Like that's
she's beautiful.
right. So like of course she doesn't bark that much because like
She's
she's
posh.
trained by like some of the best and like
Yeah.
she's a posh little puppy. So like she's not just walking into classes all the time. So I think it's very rare that it actually happens where a class gets canceled because the dog barks.
Another tradition is going to midnight yell, which is basically like the night before every single home game, like a
Mhm.
football game on a Saturday. So like Friday night, we'd go out at midnight to our stadium, and there would be like thousands. I mean, maybe like 30,000 people. I mean, our stadium fits like 100,000, which is crazy. It's bigger than the Dallas Cowboys football stadium, which is insane to me that the university is
I believe
one is bigger.
when I was in school, it was one of the biggest college football stadiums, which I
In
think
the
makes it one
US.
of the biggest stadiums in the world. It was bigger than the UT one.
That's
I
insane.
think ours is bigger now because they renovated ours, and I think usually we renovate it to be like 10
Bigger than
seats bigger
ours.
than the NM one. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the only objective.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So the night before you go and you just talk trash, like they're all like talking shit about
Yep.
who we're playing the next day. Like the yell leaders, because we don't have cheerleaders, we have yell leaders.
Yep.
And like they have mics and they're just talking trash about who we're gonna play the next day. Do you know what BTHO means?
Beat the hell out of them.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like
nice.
whoever we're playing, so like there was even t-shirts that say like BTHO Arkansas, BTHO UT or whatever. And it's like
Yep.
beat the hell out of UT, beat the hell out of
Yep.
Arkansas,
Yep.
or Alabama. That's just so funny to me.
I feel like you guys, like, I feel like A&M gets almost more into the, like, I don't want to say like team spirit piece, but like doing the midnight yell, showing up, getting custom t-shirts for every
Yeah.
opponent, like that's in pretty deep. And I feel like
For
you guys
sure.
take a lot of pride in that. I feel like the UT experience was more like people really care about college football and like people tailgate, they do all that stuff, right? Like it's a really big part of the culture, but no one's going to the stadium at midnight the night before to like, talk shit about the opponent before you even get to game day. So like,
Yeah.
but I think we almost pride ourselves on like, oh, we're too cool for that. Like we're too like snobby for that. We don't need to do that.
You guys are city folk though, and
We're
you're
city folk,
right that
yeah.
like A&M is in College Station, Texas.
Right.
That's such a funny name, like College
It's
Station.
always been really funny to me that it's
Right?
literally
Or
just
if you're-
College Station.
If you're cool, you call it C-Stat. Or at least that was like in 2013.
We used to call it C-Stat when I was
C-Stat.
in school too. So.
And it's really just like countryside. So like there's not much else to do besides like go to Northgate, which is like where the bars were,
Yep.
or go
to
like
Lanes.
or like participate in university stuff.
Yeah.
Did you say
I think
Lanes?
Lanes, the chicken place,
Oh yeah,
right?
there's
Yeah, that's the
Lanes
feeling
and
I know.
Canes.
Yeah.
Getting like for some reference for everyone listening, Lanes and Canes is like a place, like they're also rivals that only sell like chicken tenders. Like that is their business model and they do it well.
Yep.
I mean, I'm vegan now, but I have the good memories.
Back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, Lanes and Canes, and they just sell chicken tenders and like that's it, and like a special sauce.
Yeah.
Like that was really popular in my town. It was definitely it was a vibe, and I often think like what would have life been like if I had gone to UT. I did get accepted to UT.
But you got accepted to both and chose to go
Yeah.
to College Station to get A&M.
Are you saying that as a
I mean,
As a
no, hey,
statement,
everybody
and you
gets
chose.
everybody gets to choose what they want to do. I'm just,
Yeah.
a lot of times it's the other way.
did
right?
you get into A&M?
Yeah, I got into both.
Okay, so you
I
made
got-
a choice.
I got into
as well.
both. So I have two older brothers who both went to University of Texas. So
Okay.
I don't know if I had a choice at that point,
Okay.
but I did get into both, and I chose to go to UT. So.
I see. Yeah, they're just very, very different. But when I think about like what life would have been like in Austin, I think I would have just been like overwhelmed. I already felt overwhelmed like living in the countryside, like 6 hours away from my hometown. But like damn, like
I mean,
you
I think
guys,
just going to college is overwhelming in the US,
yeah.
right?
And
It's
then
when you
like
move out, like,
Austin is like a whole like with like, you take the university out and
yeah,
Austin is such an incredible vibey city.
yeah.
So many things to do. I think I would have just like been like, like there's just so much happening.
Yeah, and I think it is easy to get caught up in that. And I think that is something that can happen for some people. But I mean, at least for me, my first year, probably even my second year too, like you're just in that university bubble and like maybe you go out to some restaurants, maybe every once in a while on the weekends you might do some stuff in Austin. But for the most part, like you're just in like the campus bubble.
Yeah.
So you are a little bit isolated from like, you know, the chaos or whatever, or like that is Austin, right? So, but I do get that for College Station, like, you know, A&M is the big draw. Like if you're going
Yeah.
to school there, like there really isn't so much other stuff to do. So like, of course you're going to go pond hopping and go to midnight yells
Yeah.
and like go to the bonfires and whatever,
Yeah.
right? Because like, that's what it's all about, right? And like, I think I would have done that kind of stuff if I had gone to A&M as well, right? Because you want to be a part of that, right? That's
Yeah.
like part of the appeal. So
Look at us having a civil conversation
yeah, I
about
wouldn't have
UT
been able to
and
do this
A&M.
like, you know, when I was in school.
They
so.
told us we should hate each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and we still do for sports related stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's just different. I mean, it definitely is a really different experience for college. So.
Yeah. So you were there in Austin for 4 years.
I was in Austin for 4 years. Yep.
What would you say, like, what are the vibes of Austin versus Munich? I know it's not the last place that you lived, but
Yep.
you did live there for many years.
What are the vibes of Austin versus Munich? I do think they're kind of similar because they're both like, at the end of the day, kind of small cities. So I think that's kind of a big part of it. I also think that they both kind of have like, I don't know, Austin definitely has a really strong like hipster culture or like trying to be like
For
different
sure.
culture.
Counterculture.
And it has a very big like counterculture, hipster culture, but it's also got a very big like, it's very international. Part of that is from the like university. A lot of that now too comes from like, it's just kind of become like a tech hub, right? So
Yeah.
like, you meet people from all over, not just the US, even like abroad too. And you can find like, you know, good food from like any kind of cuisine. And I think Munich has that as well. Munich also has really major universities within Germany, has a lot of expats living here, right? A lot of
Yeah.
immigrants move to Munich specifically because it's an international city. So I think they have that in common of like, you get a lot of different kinds of food, you get a lot of people from all over the place, but it's not like you're living in New York where it's just like this
True.
insanely big, like mega city. And I think that's a vibe I like a lot. Like,
Yeah.
you meet people from all over the place, but it's not just crazy overwhelming to be there. And I think they have that in common.
Yeah. I think like every time I've gone back, actually my mom lived in Austin for about 10 years.
I was going to ask how much you've been to Austin.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
quite a lot. Like many times. Like that's like where I'd go back
Mm-hmm.
before my mom moved to Spain about a year and a half ago.
Yep.
So Austin is where I'd go back. And I mean, it's just such a vibe. Every time I'd go, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do.
Oh, yeah.
So much live music and art, and people are just so cool and friendly and warm, like my people, my Texas people.
I do think the warmness, the friendliness, like that's a big piece of not just like US culture, but especially in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a big thing. A lot of people miss that.
And then when I think about Austin though, and I'm just like, oh, like I wish Munich was more like this. I'm just like, you know what? I just don't go out here. I'm sure like, I mean, you've been here 7 months. Like if you're seeking stuff in Munich, like there's plenty to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is, but I don't know that it's as easy to, you have to go out of your way to find it, I think.
True. It's not like Berlin where it's just like literally you turn everywhere and like
Yeah.
there's such cool artsy vibey stuff. True. You have to
Yep.
kind of look for it.
You kind of have to look for it. I do think I miss some of it just by like, you know, my German's fine, but it's not like perfect. And I don't have a ton of like friends who are Germans, right? So I think
Yeah.
without those two things, like you're just going to miss a lot of that stuff that is going on. But it's, I mean, it's a pretty busy, like there's a lot of like all the breweries are based here, you know, Oktoberfest is like the big one, but there's a lot of other fests too, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, you know, big stuff that happens as far as just events, festivals, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And then the mountains aren't that far.
And the mountains aren't that far. It kind of reminds me of like Denver is what I tell people a lot of like, you can see the Alps from Munich. Like if you're
Yeah.
just walking down the right street at the right time, like you can see the Alps like on the horizon, and it's gorgeous, right? And it's a 1 hour train ride to be in, you know, the foothills of the Alps, and
Yeah.
that's one of the coolest parts about living here is the connection
Absolutely.
with nature.
I've been here over 8 years and like it never gets old.
Yep.
It really never does.
Yep.
I want to transition now
Mhm.
into the world of travel.
Okay.
So you just got back from
Just got back from Asia. Yeah. I just
Where
got
did you
back
go?
from. So we were in Hong Kong for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were in Taipei in Taiwan for 4 days. And then we were in South Korea for 3 days in Seoul. So
Wow.
3 countries in 2 weeks. Went for mostly for Lunar New Year. So one
Mm-hmm.
of Sophie's best friends from university is born and raised in Hong Kong. So we went to spend Lunar New Year with him and his family there. And then my brother lives in Taipei. So we visited him for a few days. And then we went to Korea on the way back because it was just kind of the easiest way to come back, and took a long layover there. So yeah.
Had you already been to those countries?
So I had been to Taiwan. I went to Taiwan in July. That was my first time in Asia. So this was only my second time in Asia, period. And last time I was in Taiwan for 2 weeks. So this was my first time in Hong Kong, my first time in, like I guess like greater like China area, right?
Yeah.
And then it was my first time in Korea.
Very cool. And first impressions?
First impressions, Hong Kong's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it's a really cool city. It's a really, really dense city. A lot of the Asian cities are kind of dense anyway, right? I mean, even Taipei's that way. But Hong Kong in particular it's another level. Like every building has like businesses all the way up to the 5th floor, the 6th floor. Like everywhere you look, there's neon signs and like different kind of stuff trying to grab your attention. So, and it felt like, I don't know, a little bit more like the West than I was expecting. Like, that's kind of the whole idea with Hong Kong, right? It's kind of like an East meets West type vibe. But there was a lot of that. So really, really cool city, but definitely one that can be overwhelming. So
How is the food? Which country had the best food?
Which country had the best food? I honestly thought Korea had really, really good food, but I liked the food at all of them. I think Hong Kong had really good seafood options, especially during Lunar New Year. We were in kind of like a little fishing village where our friend is originally from, and we had some really, really good seafood there, really good lobster. So I think that's a huge draw there of like the Cantonese cuisine, like the dim sum type stuff. So that was really good. But I tend to like, kind of beef, chicken, that kind of stuff more. And that there was a lot more of that in Korea. So
Very cool. Did you grow up traveling internationally?
We traveled for sure, but we didn't travel internationally that much. I mean, we lived in Canada when I was a kid, but I feel like that almost doesn't count.
When was the first time that you ever went abroad?
Not counting Canada.
Yeah, no, like overseas.
We went to Mexico when I was a kid, but we went to a resort.
That doesn't count.
Doesn't count. And then
I mean, it counts.
we
but
did like a cruise later and kind of did some of that kind of stuff. But again, that was still kind of like resorty vibe.
Yeah.
The first time I feel like it was a real experience abroad, oddly enough, was going to Croatia. So the first time I ever went to Europe, the first time I did anything like that was with my parents and then one of my older brothers. We went to Croatia as a family at the end of my like high school years, and we were there for like a week and a half on like a guided trip. And I think that was my first real like international experience, because otherwise it was all like either Mexico or like Caribbean resorts, or it was Canada.
Yeah.
So, and Croatia does feel, completely different than the US, of course.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So yeah, Croatia, how was that? Like when you went, were you just like, oh man, Europe is cool? Everyone's gonna hate me saying this, Europe, because I think like online people are like, oh my gosh, like we're all different, which is true.
Oh, they are. It totally is all different. I mean, there's similarities. We went right after they joined the European Union. But before they had the euro, so it was really, really cheap. Was one of the things I remember. Like we went to like a really nice restaurant in Zagreb, and it was like the same as going to like a Chili's in the US. It was like $20 a person or something like that. So really, really affordable, really, really beautiful countryside. I think for me, looking back, I think it was a really like formative experience for me, because it was like, wait, this is awesome. Like we just drive around in these like hills and like these mountains, and there's like lakes everywhere, and like all the food's really cheap, and like, everybody's like super friendly because we're like Americans, we're foreigners. Now Croatia is really touristy, but back then it didn't quite have that reputation yet. I guess
we still had a decent reputation as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we were maybe a little bit more
Americans,
popular.
like,
Yeah. So it was a cool combination of like people were really excited that we were even there as like part of a tour group. And I think that left a really good impression. Because I think sometimes people have horror stories of like you go to like Paris or Barcelona and people are like, oh, like we hate tourists. They ruin the city. But the Croatians were really friendly. Like anybody we talked to was super glad that we were there. And it randomly happened to be during the Euro Cup. So to get a piece of the sporting culture here, to see people like lined up in their like town squares cheering on their country was really cool. Because that's just like one of the things we don't really see in the US, which is kind of weird. I mean, you get it around the Olympics, but that level of like pride in like your country for like a sporting event, you know, we don't see so often.
True. Probably, the Olympics for sure. But any other time, it's not so common, like on a country level.
Right. Yeah.
I've also been to Croatia, and it was in 2016, like when I first moved to Germany, and it was not inexpensive at that time.
Did they have the euro yet or no?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so I feel like that was like the dividing time. For them in terms of becoming expensive, but
it was just such a different time, and I think like what was sad. I mean, I had a really good friend, Yelena. I think, well, I don't want to say had. I have a good friend, Yelena, that we like were roommates like the year before in Poland. And when I say roommates, like actually in the same room.
Okay, wow, yeah, it's like American university type roommates. Yeah.
So like we were in a dorm for a whole summer, and then she told me like, oh, you have to come to Croatia one day. And I went, and it was I was shocked like about the cost actually, and she was saying that like it was really hard for them because like if it's expensive, of course, for like an American salary, for example, like imagine
if
what
me and
it's
you
like
go to
for
Croatia,
Croatians.
exactly, and that's one of the downsides I think to them, you know, getting like kind of over touristed and maybe even like, you know, initially like taking on the euro, right? I think that's something that is like an adjustment, right? And it sucks for the local people.
But I can definitely agree of saying like that their culture is so warm, the people are so friendly. I particularly remember like asking her like, how is it that you and your sister speak like incredible English, like even better than many like Germans that I had met at the time. And she told me, she was like, oh, it's because our country is so poor that they didn't dub any of like our TV shows. And she's like, I've been growing up like watching US television since I was a kid.
That's funny.
And I was like, wow, like, that's so cool though, in a sense of like, when you don't have much, I guess you have it all. No, that like
it's like the silver lining, right? Of like, you know, like we can't watch it with Croatian subtitles, but at least we're learning English from like 6 years old. So
absolutely. And like versus countries maybe where they do have absolutely everything dubbed and with subtitles, and like as a nation,
I mean, look at the US, right? Like we never learn another language because we don't need to, right? Like everything is in English, everything's subtitled in English,
or catered for us.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's like, if they're going to bring it to the US, they're going to like build it specifically for the US, that we don't have to worry about the fact that it was in another language. Like it's just dubbed, and like you had no idea.
Do you know the joke that's like, oh, what do you call someone who speaks 3 languages? Trilingual, right? And 2 languages? Bilingual and 1 language.
American. It's not just us, but yeah.
No, but that's the reputation.
But it's not wrong too. I mean, like most Americans only speak 1 language, right? And there's just not a lot of incentive to learn if you live in the US.
Yeah. So. Moving on to next segment, I want to talk a little bit about your time here the last 7 months.
Yep.
Life abroad, life in Munich, Germany. Take me back to your first week, not in Germany, but I guess your first week of like actually moving here. What were your impressions?
I mean, it's a little bit different for me because it wasn't like my first week living here in August was not like my first week in Germany, right? So obviously I'd been visiting Sophie for a long time, but I also did like a semester, or like not semester, but I did like a summer exchange program in Würzburg during college. So I had already spent like 11 weeks here. So
let's take it back actually.
Yeah, so let's like maybe start there.
First time ever in Germany.
First time ever in Germany during college was a lot more intimidating. Because I didn't know that much German. I knew a little bit. I also just like didn't know what to expect. Again, I had only been to Croatia, which like is cool and all,
It's
but like it's
nothing
not
like
really
Germany.
the same as Germany.
No.
Is like not even like representative of like maybe what life in Europe is like, right?
Yeah.
Like all the stuff I talked about earlier of like public transit and like not really the case for a lot of the Croatian like little towns we went to, right?
Yeah.
So my first impression was just like you know, how easy it was to get around, right? Even Würzburg, which is like this tiny, like, I don't know, it's not tiny, but like maybe by American standards it's small, has like a big network of like trams that you can get around on, right? That like the bus network is like robust. But I remember the thing that was most surprising to me by far was like, they were like, oh, we're going to put you in university housing. Okay, great. That'll make it really easy, right? Then I just live like right by where my classes are. Except university housing for the university in Würzburg is not on campus. It's like the campus is 40 minutes away from where the university housing is.
Damn.
So like, I think I just came in with this expectation that like, oh, it'll be just like American universities.
Yeah.
Where like your classes, your dining hall, like your dormitory, like the football stadium is all in the same thing. And they were
Football
like, there is no
stadium.
football stadium. Like, why would we even have sports at the university? Like your dorm is where it was cheap to build a dorm. So it's like basically outside of Würzburg and you have to take a bus to a tram to another bus.
Yeah.
So that was like a little bit of a culture shock, just like going from an American university to like quickly having to realize what the European university experience is like. But then also just like spending time actually talking to people from other cultures, right? And like other students, right?
Yeah.
Not just Germans, but other people that were like on Erasmus programs there. I think was really important for me to kind of like get a picture of all that. I was still a little bit in a bubble. I mean, I was on like an exchange program with 24 other Americans. So like most of my time was spent with other people from my university, from the US, but
Schade.
yeah, a little bit, but still got to do a lot of that and spend a lot of time in Germany and also, you know, do some traveling, go to Prague, go to Paris, that kind of stuff. So it was really important for me, I think, to have that experience to even be open to moving here in the first place. So, because I think from the beginning, for me, moving to Germany, like, you know, permanently, right, like I am now, wasn't that intimidating because I had already done that semester, like time abroad. I had already spent a lot of time here visiting Sophie. So it wasn't like, oh, like this is my first week in Germany. Like I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, no, I had tried the food before. Like I had already like had some experience with the language. Like I kind of knew how some of the systems worked. I know how the trains work. Like, so I have a huge head start compared to people who like, you know, maybe what you went through, just showing up here to do a university program where, you know, you're kind of starting from scratch.
Yeah. So. I had never I had never been in Germany, not a single day in my life.
First day of university was like your first week in Germany or?
No, I mean, I did like a pre-study program where I went to my university here in Munich, like a month before and like did like a 1 month German course. So that was nice.
Still.
It was like, think of it like summer camp for adults.
Before the 1 month German course, you knew no German at all?
Oh, nothing. My first day in Germany, like I saw the signs and I thought it said Strabe for Strasse.
Oh no. That's not good.
That's the level of ignorant that I was at. I've come a long way. That was 8.5 years ago. Ich bin so stolz auf mich.
There you go.
Yeah, but it was definitely a trip.
Yeah.
But tell me about your experience with German bureaucracy. Like, give everyone what they want to hear. How was it?
Bureaucracy?
So like Anmeldung, like having to register your address,
dude,
getting
all of that was
getting health insurance, getting the visa, like finding the job. Like, how was all of that?
Finding the job sucked. Having to do Anmeldung also kind of sucks. So.
There's a lot, right?
Yeah, there's just a lot that you have to go through. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I wonder how different it would be if it's like, oh, if you move to France, is it just like no bureaucracy? Like, there's always some level of that, right?
Yeah.
But the reputation that German bureaucracy has is earned. I mean, getting the visa was like, they're just like sticklers about like every requirement. Because like I applied for a visa with this new program of like, you don't have to get your degree verified as long as you have work experience and a college degree. Like you can just get a 1 year job looking visa. Did all the paperwork for that. They were like, but your job experience doesn't match your degree. So like it doesn't actually count. And I was like, are you kidding me? So then I had to like go through a different process and like get my degree like translated to German and then sent to like the German Education Bureau so they could be like, oh yeah, this is the same as a German degree. Like, turns out chemistry is still just chemistry in the US.
Oh my gosh.
So like my visa process
Yeah.
took like months longer than it was supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I moved here before I had actually gotten my visa like formally issued. So my first like 60 days here, I was on like a tourist visa.
Yeah.
Because they were still processing my like real like, you know, Schadenskarte visa. And then even now I'm on my Schadenskarte visa, that one, while I'm waiting to get my like formal working visa, which also takes like 10 weeks. So now that one I had already gone through this once before. So I knew to be like double, triple sure about all the requirements and stuff. But like, you know, it's just a lot of waiting for, you know, the bureaucracy to do its thing. So
Yeah.
and then just even like the unmelding thing, right? Like you have to register where you live. Like that was a new concept to me, right?
Yeah.
The US, you just like show up to the DMV and you're like, this is where I live. And they're like, sounds great.
Yeah.
Like, don't update that shit for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
So just different.
But I think what you said is like, how different is it in other European countries? Like that's something like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
Or
either.
like also, I mean, being a foreigner in the US, like I'm sure
Right.
like people like, I mean, we don't know, but I'm pretty sure that US bureaucracy also sucks.
Yeah, I think there's just some level of like, that's what you sign up for when you choose to like be an immigrant and live abroad,
Yeah.
right? Is like, there's just going to be a lot of paperwork that goes along with that. And I knew that going in, but it was still surprising to me how much it was. And again, I had a head start because Sophie had been through that before and like knew that I had to do all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Knew which like form to get. So again, I even had an advantage compared to what most people start with. So
Absolutely. And what would you say? Yeah, if someone's curious and wants to move to Germany, they're from the US, things are hard right now, like they're feeling like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to get the hell out. What advice would you be giving them? I mean, you're here still fresh, 7 months.
yeah, I mean, it's doable. Like there's I mean, definitely look into it, right? I mean, there's a lot of programs that exist to like get foreign talent here, right? Like
Yeah.
the kind of visa that I got is relatively achievable for somebody who has a college education from the United States.
Yeah.
I do think that if you're willing to live in a bigger city, right, Munich, but especially like a Berlin, you can get by with not knowing that much German, right? I mean, I'm not fluent. I know a good amount, but like, but you don't need to know, you know, like a ton to get by in like daily life. I mean, you should learn it. Like, I think it's really important for anybody who's moving to another country to learn the language.
Of course.
But
as a first step,
But as a first step, like, yeah, it's not like, I think a lot of people get caught up on that of like, oh, but I don't speak German. It's like, that's okay. Like
Throw
you
yourself
don't have to,
in.
yeah, there's one way to like, the best way to learn is by coming here and taking classes here, right? Like, I think it's
Yeah.
silly to like spend a year in the US, like taking German classes to be like prepared for it, right? You'll just learn so much faster if you're here. So, but I think it's achievable. I think moving to a bigger city is a little bit more of an easy landing, right?
sure.
I think living in Munich is a lot different than like living in one of the little villages that is like an hour north of here, right?
Totally.
But I think there's a lot of programs for it. I think there's a lot of need for foreign talent. And I think people here are generally becoming more open to the idea that like they need foreign workers, they need immigrants if they're going to be, you know, economically successful and all that. So, I mean, people are, you know, open to that. So,
I like that response. I would also maybe say the same that like, you know, a lot of people get caught up in the semantics and think like, oh, maybe I'm a little crazy for thinking I could move across the world, like pick up my life. But like, it's doable.
It's doable.
It's doable. Like if you're actually like, if you're actually really serious about it and like you do your research, like you look at all these different visa options, you figure it out, you get your shit together. It's possible. And I start to think of the quote like, if your dreams don't scare you, like they're not big enough. Or something like that. But like, like it can feel a little scary, like trying to move your life across the world. But like, it's not like, you're the first one that has ever done it. Like,
right. People have done this before. And I do think it's one of those things like there's processes in place. You just got to do your research. I think maybe like the one caveat I would say is that like, it's definitely an easier experience for me because like, I don't know, like I blend in. Like, I mean, a lot of people just feasibly like think I'm German when I walk into places, right? And that's a huge leg up. I know there are people who like, you know, like darker skin tones, that have bad experiences with people here, right? That have like maybe like an anti-immigrant sentiment, but at least for me, I haven't had that experience, right? And I think people are, generally friendly and welcoming, but
in a bigger city, I like recognizing privilege.
Yeah, no, it's super real, right? I mean, I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with that. So
yeah. I'd love to hear actually experiences of people of color here in Munich.
Yeah.
I do have a few friends. Hopefully I'll get my friend on from Nigeria one of these days.
No, I'd love to hear their perspective, because I do think it's, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a night and day difference, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not.
Okay, so I want to finish off this episode with a few would you rathers.
Oh boy.
Well, actually, let me take a step back. Looking ahead, let's take one more step back. Looking ahead, what would you say the future looks like for you? Like, do you see yourself living in Germany long term, or are you kind of just like taking it day by day?
Long term. What does long term mean to you in this case?
True. Okay, like 2 years, 3 years.
2 years, 3 years.
Is that long?
I don't know. I would say like medium term. I'm going to be in Germany. So
yeah.
I tell a lot of people, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years plus or minus 2, something like that. At least 2 or 3. I think that's like the shortest I would stay. Like, I didn't move here just to like immediately be like, all right, like let's time to find a job and go back. Like, it's just not realistic. I mean, I just started working here, so like I think that it's going to be at least a couple years, but I also know it's not forever. Like, I'm not going to be in Germany forever. Right? At some point, I mean,
that's what I thought.
I mean, anything could happen, right? Like, I don't want to like rule stuff out, but 99% chance, like at some point I'm going to go back to the US or, somewhere else, but,
you'll take it with you. Like all
of course,
the time here.
Yeah.
Things learned.
Maybe citizenship gained, whatever, we'll see. But I do think that like, it's not going to be forever, but definitely for 3, 5, something like that.
A good chapter.
Yeah.
Now for the would you rathers.
Okay.
Would you rather survive a Texas summer with no AC or a German winter with no heating?
German winter with no heating.
Okay, that was a quick one.
I mean, Texas summer with no AC is like you die. Like, all right.
Yeah.
So,
next one: would you rather deal with Texas mosquitoes in the summer or Bavarian wasps during the summer at beer gardens?
Oh God, dude! The attitude that the Germans have towards wasps is just that level of courage is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I will take the Texas mosquitoes.
Okay.
We have the good shit. We have the high quality bug spray.
True.
You just gotta apply and you'll survive with DEET. No DEET here, so yeah.
They say, I think Germany says like it causes cancer, and Texas is like, oh, we don't care.
I'm sure it does, but like,
but it also keeps the mosquitoes
away.
Like,
if that's the price I have to pay, like, all right.
Yeah. Would you rather only be able to go to the Houston rodeo for the rest of your life or to Oktoberfest?
You ever been to the Houston rodeo?
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's a pretty good time.
It is. It's great.
I think this might be a pretty hot take, but I think I'm going Houston rodeo, which I almost feel bad saying, because I'm not a rodeo person, right? But like, but the Houston rodeo it's more than a rodeo.
It is. There's concerts.
There's concerts.
Do you know mutton busting?
Dude, mutton busting is one of the greatest things about the rodeo.
Gosh.
I would way rather watch that than watch bull riding.
For anyone listening in that doesn't know what mutton busting is, MUTTON BUSTIN. Mutton busting. It is like toddlers riding sheep. So just go check it out.
It's basically bull riding with tiny people.
It's amazing.
I mean, tiny bulls, right? Like, it's a sheep and a toddler instead of a bull and a human. So
yeah, no, I love it. And then lastly, would you rather always have to wear a huge cowboy hat in Germany, like for the rest of your life? You have to wear it every single day, or a pair of lederhosen in Texas?
I feel like it's probably easier to get away with the lederhosen in Texas, but it's definitely tough. You're for sure, like, you're moving to Fredericksburg is what's happening. Like, you're moving to Fredericksburg or like, New Braunfels or something in like the little German belt of Texas. And you're just starting like a German bakery and you can totally blend in. The cowboy hat in Germany,
stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, there's no winning that one. It's not like, oh, you just moved to the Texan part of Germany. No, like, that doesn't exist. Like,
no, I'd agree.
Yeah, I'm definitely going lederhosen, but it's not easy. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Max, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
I really, enjoyed
for inviting
talking
me.
to a fellow Texan.
Yeah.
I think there's always things to say about our state. Things are changing all the time, here and there. Yeah, thank you for your time. And to everyone listening in, thanks a lot. And until next episode.
All right. Thanks for having me.
The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.